Brahma Guru Vishnu Guru Devo Maheshwara Gurureva Param Brahma Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. So just now we saw that the self was indicated as the innermost self was indicated as the principle of knowledge, because of which the senses function, the knowledge of perception and the knowledge of all other knowledges are possible only because of it, and knowing it and realizing it, the seeker becomes free of all grief and all fear. And having told that, continues, the Lord of Death continues to tell Nachiketa, Yah purvam tapaso jatam adbhya purvam ajayata guham pravishya tishthantam yo bhutebhir vyapashyata etadvaitata. He says, he who was born of tapas of Brahmaji in the beginning and born even prior to the five elements, water, etc., from consciousness, that is Brahman, who holds the firstborn Hiranyagarbha, who entered the cave of the heart and dwells within the five great elements, koshas, there he verily sees Brahman. This is verily that Brahman which thou hast asked for. So here again, the theory of how creation took place, and another way is being shown to us, is being explained to us. Theory of creation, how creation came about, nobody knows how it came about. Anyone who says that he knows how the creation came about is fooling him, including the scientists and including the Mahatmas. If anyone says that, any book says that this is the way creation came about, can't. Because in our Taittiriya Upanishad we saw a different type of creation, how the creation came. Here again we will see, in Bhagavatam there are about 80 different ways of how creation came about. But point is one, they all came out of the same source. And they all go back to the same source. So, because we find ourselves in something called creation doesn't mean that it is real. Real is something else, and that is our essential nature. And here, the rishis of yore, they have solved this problem by saying that all the names and forms which form the world is nothing but a delusion and created by the human mind. And a human mind can create anything in many different ways. Nobody has been able to understand the human mind yet, other than the Mahatmas. Why is that? Because they have not gone beyond the mind. Until unless you don't go beyond the mind, how will you understand the mind? And when a seeker begins his journey, his spiritual journey, at that time it is unavoidable that the seeker considers this world as a real world. It is unavoidable. That is what we all feel, isn't it? But what scriptures are saying, if we believe in them, if we have faith in them, and what the great masters who have realized what they are saying, then that must be true also. So we will have to change our view of this world and make ourselves grow into a diviner person, and when we reach that divinity that we essentially are, which we really want to be, then automatically this world loses any reality, for such a person once he gets there, and therefore he goes to a teacher, and the teacher's job is what? To somehow, without making that person depressed while seeking, because again and again it is falling on the ears of the student, the world that you are living in is unreal. The world you are living in is unreal. It is a imagination of your mind. It is an illusion. And the seeker is not able to make that shift in his mind, and if he is not able to make the shift, depression. He will not continue the journey. He will remain confused. But if that seeker is able to make the shift, that yes, there is a possibility, what they are saying, that everything in the world is changing, everything in the world is finite, everything in the world is perishable, then what am I calling, why am I calling this world as permanent? If he thinks a little bit, a shift comes. And that is the job of scriptures as well as teacher, to slowly make other seekers come to this point where they are able to make this shift within themselves with regards to the creation. Because until unless they don't make this shift in the creation, their spiritual journey will not move ahead. So it will be like having two legs in two boats and wanting the best of both worlds. It is not possible. And therefore, ever slowly, ever with carefully, the scriptures and the teacher lead the seeker who thinks he is an individual, who thinks he is an ego, who thinks this world is real, and bring him to a point where he is able to establish himself in the total mind. And once he establishes in the total mind, or even once he comes to the total mind, automatically his previous ideas about himself all get, his previous ideas about himself, they get washed away, and he starts looking at the whole thing in a new way. See, an IT expert looks at the whole world only from an IT point of view. Huh? A mother looks at the whole world as a mother. It's mine, don't worry.
No. So that was the culprit.
The whole world from his point of view. And father will look at it from his. The employee, he looks at the world from his point of view only. He doesn't have the capability to look at the world in a general manner. Everyone is becoming someone or something and then looking at the world. Then what is that position from where we can see the world as one and not different? Because it's the same world that you are living in, that an IT fellow is living in, that a father or a mother is living in. So how can we define the same world? For that we have to go one step higher, and that step higher is the total mind. And once this fellow, the seeker, discovers that this reality, this witnessing consciousness itself is the conscious principle that I am, this verily is that this conscious principle, this core within me, that itself I am, from that moment onwards, his experience is that the entire creation is pervaded by me. And after that, how can it be that the world is separate to me? How can it be that I will seek a fulfillment of a desire, where desire can only express in the world? But now if I am pervading the whole world, what desire will I have? Isn't it? This is the previous was the conundrum, where the student is considering this world as real, and this is the solution. That's the disease, this is the medicine. And therefore it is told, he who knows this reality, he who knows Brahman through both these expressions, and that is the total mind as well as the individual mind. He who knows that it is the witnessing consciousness which is expressing through the total mind as God and through individual mind as ego, such person alone knows everything. Adbhya purvam, therefore it was written here, Adbhya purvam ajayata, verse 6.
Page.
My book,
Side book. After
no,
side.
it's a different page. Section 4, verse 6. Where we stopped last week, last class.
I thought we were starting on that next chapter.
That we already started.
Oh. Hello.
Verse 6.
Oh, you got a different book, didn't you?
185.
Yeah.
So when it is told here that both the microcosm and the macrocosm are pervaded by me until unless this experience is not happening, till then it is we are still in the relative plane of existence. So here Adbhya Purvam, the Hiranyagarbha, the total mind was born prior to the 5 elements. What are the 5 elements? Space, air, fire, water, earth. Space, air, fire, water, earth are a product of your mind. Out of these 5 elements, the rest of the creation is created. So what was there before them? It was the total mind. And that, what is that total mind? The Hiranyagarbha, the God mind. And here they have just said one, which was water, but you have to take it as water, all the other 5 elements: earth, water, fire, air, and space. Tapasaha, the penance or of knowledge. This means when the Supreme willed, then when this God willed, then alone this creation came into existence. That when this God willed to become many, then alone he became many. When you willed that I am not happy being a bachelor, then you became a wife or a husband and a brother, or not a brother, but mother, or and other relations that you are known by. So you became many. You became many. Became a friend to so many people. So same way, this total mind, which is complete in itself, doesn't need anything to do, as if willed that I want to experience myself. And at that moment, because there was this desire, so that desire in the total mind brought out space, air, fire, water, earth, and then slowly the whole creation started manifesting itself. And that is being told in this mantra. And then it is told, Guha pravishya tishtanta, after having created the whole creation out of his own will, that total mind or that consciousness which is expressing, mind by itself cannot, isn't it? There has to be consciousness in the total mind which was willing, which we call God. And after having created the manyness, meaning it became the cause and this entire creation became the effect, it entered it. Pravishya, Guha, and then it entered and stayed in the heart of every object of this creation. See?
There was one vibration which caused it all, just one.
That is not given.
No, but I was just thinking.
Don't, we are imagining now. How it came, pardon me?
The
Now?
first, the primordial sound.
That must be the expression.
Yeah.
Yeah, that must be the expression. But here, he told that it is known by Om, but here he is not telling, he does not want the student to get distracted, he is only talking about the ultimate. Om is a vehicle which will take you to the ultimate. Om is not, some masters say it is the ultimate, some people say it will take you to the ultimate. But Om has to stop in order for you to abide.
The unstruck sound.
Pardon me?
The unstruck sound.
Yes. So when the Brahman or the reality expressing through conditioning of Maya is called Jiva, and that Jiva, when it is expressing at the total mind level, that when that individual is expressing at the total mind level, it is called the God, and when it is expressing at the individual mind level, it is called the Jiva. And once this is known, once the individual abides in his essential nature, then these two, the individual mind and the total mind, they both become one in that case for that person. Ya pranena sambhavati aditir devata guham pravishya tishthantim ya bhute bhirvyajayata etadvaitata. That Aditi Hiranyagarbha, expressing as the prana, life, having entered and existing as the soul of all the faculties within the body of 5 great elements, and is thus as if born. This is that indeed. So there also, this is verily that in the previous verse. So every verse is saying, this is that, this is that. From different angles he is bringing the attention of the student to that reality. So what is this? Here the word prana stands for the Hiranyagarbha, the total mind, and thus he who is born from the total mind or Hiranyagarbha, that is what is meant here. Having entered and existing as the soul of all faculties within the body of the 5 great elements. So after having willed, desired, as if the creation came about, and after that it was created, he entered into it. Will there be will it be a linear expression that the first creation came and then you entered, like you build a house and then you enter it? Is that how it was? No. As you are growing, number of cells are increasing, you are entering into every one of them. You are in it already. The cell cannot multiply without you being there, isn't it? Like that. So as this creation came, at that very moment, the total mind or the consciousness expressing the total mind entered into the entire creation. Devatamai, in the form of gods. How did it enter? Then that total mind took the form of various demigods, the principal deities. Like in every culture, I think in Christianity also there is a god for water, there is a god for sun, there is a god for air. Is there? What are your gods? No, there are other angels, you call them. So all those different angels, they are demigods.
Yes.
Okay? So all those, so he took, when the consciousness is expressing through this hand, what it is called? That power which is behind this arm is called arm god, leg god, mind god, breathing god, this way different, the speech god. So behind the sun, sun god, behind the water, water god, air god, whose son was Hanuman. So this way the Lord took different, he is only expressing, but he took the form of the presiding deities behind each aspect of the creation. Like we have the rain god, and this way the pranas are that means the Hiranyagarbha, the total mind, a consciousness expressing through total mind is the life essence when it comes to the 5 senses. Each of our five senses is, we just now told you, the creation is made out of space, air, fire, water, earth. The five senses are also made out of space, air, fire, water, earth. The quality of space is sound. For the sound, ears came. For the quality of air is touch. For that, the skin came. For the quality of fire is form. For that, the eyes came. For the quality of water is taste. For that, the tongue came. And the quality of earth is smell. And for that, the nose came. And this way, everything corresponding to each other. Otherwise, there is no point having all this and nothing to experience it. And there is no point having all these five senses and nothing to experience outside. So both in this manner came, and so I have five senses, you have five senses, she has five senses. Every animal being, any living organism has one or more senses. So the presiding deity is behind each of those is the Lord Himself. So this way, Aditi, literally here, Aditir Devatamai, Aditi, the one who eats, the eater. Therefore, all the experiences, all the stimuli that the five senses, born out of the five elements, are gathering, they are offering it as a oblation to the total mind, and not for anyone else, because these senses don't have any purpose for themselves. So they are taking, everything is coming in, hearing, touching, seeing, feeling, smelling, and all those stimuli are being offered as into the Havan Kund, into the fire sacrifice, into the fire sacrifice, the fire of Hiranyagarbha. And that Hiranyagarbha is the total mind. And this way, he is both the macrocosmic as well as the microcosmic, at the individual and the total. And that who is expressing as this is that. That which, first he has told that this is there. This alone is expressing through the total mind and the individual mind. The one who expresses in this manner, for whom all the senses are offering oblations of all, and he enjoys them. It is not you, the ego. When you recognize that this ego itself is the total, expressing through the total mind, and that total mind is not out there or out there, it's here only, you have to expand. It's become conditioned, it's become singular only on account of accepting that I am only this body. That's why it has become so frozen in time.
Can you get that a little bit and explain that bit again?
Which one?
Well, I don't understand how ego becomes the total mind.
Ego is only one. Either you call it the individual ego or the total ego. Consciousness is one. Consciousness cannot become two, can it?
Yeah.
Consciousness cannot become less or more. It is always the same. It's the conditionings which are not allowing it to express completely.
Oh, no, okay. Thank you.
So, to consider that I am an individual and I have to become one with the God, it's not possible. It's the same consciousness.
Yeah.
So, all you have to do is expand the mind. And how do you expand? Do these meditations. So here the meditation is being given is that all the stimuli that are coming in are for the God principle within. The ego, the total ego, expressing through, what is total ego? Which is expressing through total mind. So when you start feeling like this, then Sai Baba can say, I am full when the dog has eaten food. Shirdi Sai Baba, when he eats the food, the dog eats the food, he becomes full. If you hit the leper, he gets the marking on his back. Because everything is me alone. It will be foolish if for the consciousness expressing through your various organs, and you see they are saying, I am an individual, I am called liver, I am an individual, I am called kidney, I am an individual, I am called this, and but I am the God for them. But the consciousness expressing through that liver, which is making that liver function, or the heart function, or the kidneys function, are they other than me, the total consciousness for them? Same, no? Now, if this is understood, you take it through the total also. So everything that the digestion that is taking place, and the hydrochloric acid that is being produced, and the blood that is being pumped, and the waters that are being purified, everything, are they doing it for themselves? The organs within? No, they are doing it for me, the total being. They have got no purpose. See? So, just like all these individual organs having their individual functions which cannot happen without the consciousness functioning through them, are doing it for the total. Similarly, we all individuals are collecting all the information from the five senses, not for ourselves. It's for the total. Recognize this. Only recognition is required. So when you are breathing, breathe for God. When you are seeing, see for God. When you are hearing, hear for God. Anything that you do. So 5 organs of sense perception and 5 organs of action. Whatever you are doing or perceiving, you do it for God. And where is that God? Me. Don't tell it to people. Do it in your own personal space. And slowly, slowly grow. And growth will happen automatically because your standpoint is changed. You have understood that there is no individual ego separate to the total ego. Only the mind is individual mind and total mind. That also is an imagination. But it seems to be like that right now. But we understand electricity functioning through this 10-watt bulb and that 100-watt bulb is the same. Similarly, the consciousness expressing through individual mind or total mind is the same consciousness. So, if it is the same consciousness, how can it be two separate? Oh, just now you said 2 bulbs, that is that example. God is within you. So, experience it in this way, and the one who is the sole enjoyer of this whole universe of names and forms and sounds and smells and everything that is coming, that you are, this is verily that, this reality that we were talking about, who is the greatest enjoyer, is that reality which you had asked for. Aranyor nihito jata veda garbha eva subhruto garbhini bhihi dive dive idyo jagruvadbihi havishmadbhir manushye viragnihi etadvaitata. Now in the 8th verse, as the fetus is well preserved by the pregnant woman, the omniscient fire that is lodged within 2 pieces of wood, fire sticks, is worshipped day after day, both by awakened men and by the sacrificial offerers. This is that indeed. This is another topic in Kaivalya Upanishad. If you remember when we did it, this Arani, this example had come. The example given is that to get a pure fire, not from fire from matchstick, there is sulfur in it, not fire from gas lighter, gas is there in it. What is pure fire? When we are doing the fire sacrifice, we do not use matchstick or lighter to light it. Either the fire is brought, nowadays they do shortcut, they bring the fire from the lamp which is burning in front of the Lord, in front of the altar. But still today, people, when they light the fire for a fire sacrifice, there is a wooden bowl at the bottom, and there is a wooden bowl on the top, and there is a wooden stick, and around the wooden stick there is a rope, and someone holds the wooden is kept down, one bowl is kept down, and someone presses the top bowl on top of the stick, and one person keeps. You must have seen the cowboys also doing it. You must have seen aborigines doing it in some movies. So when you churn that, the heat that is generated between the lower wood and the stick, there the cotton is kept, and that cotton catches fire, and that is said to be pure fire. And once that fire is lit, that fire is nurtured, it is brought to the Havan Kunda, that place of sacrifice, and there you add oil, you add wood, and whatever is required, and you keep nurturing that fire, and it becomes a raging fire with 7 tongues. And till the end of the fire sacrifice, where the Purna Ahuti is offered. Purna Ahuti is when the conclusion of the sacrifice, you offer the everything, as a prasad is offered to it. Some money, many other different things are. And after that alone, the fire is allowed to douse away. But till then, throughout the ceremony, the fire is not allowed to vanish. It is nurtured throughout. When we did every year, now again we will be doing it in April in Satya Sai Baba temple, not Satya Sai Baba, Shirdi Sai temple. So there we will be chanting 1,000 names of Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram, Swaha, Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram, Swaha, and that will go. It goes for about 2, 3, 4 hours. And while all that is going on, the fire is nurtured. It is not allowed to go away.
They do that at the local temple, the Shirdi temple.
Which temple?
In Camberwell, you mean?
Camberwell. We will be doing it.
Oh.
Every year we do it.
Oh.
Yeah, along with that priest from Vidyashankar. We did that when Mom's birthday was, then also we did it at home, and that whole puja was there, and the fire was not allowed to go away. So this way, so here it is being told that so this is the process, and this process, householder every morning, we are talking about those times, every morning will light the fire in the house. That time gas was not there. And he will nurture that fire till the evening meal is not over. First he will do the puja, and after doing remembering the Lord, invoking the fire, that same fire will be used for his cooking purposes and everything. And it had to be maintained for throughout the day till the end of the day when the dinner is over. And here it is being told that fire, that pure fire which a householder invokes in his house, is not other than the reality. And at the same time, the worship of Brahman, the worship of reality by the sannyasis, by the renunciates, by the yogis, by the seekers in their heart on the seat of meditation, and that tapasya that they do, the austerity that they perform, and the heat that is generated, that also is the same fire. So both the fires, the fire of in the householder's house and the fire in the heart of the seeker, they both are the one and the same. Why? You are meditating for what? To know the truth. So the meditative fire that is burning within you, is it other than the reality? If reality is all pervasive, it is the same. What is this householder invoking that fire for? The first thing he does with that invoked fire is offer it to the Lord, and then he uses it for other purposes. So that fire is also an expression of that divine only. So understand, oh our Nachiketa, just like a mother nurtures, takes care of the fetus within her womb, the same way the seeker or a seeker of the truth maintains, nurtures his meditative fire. So how does a seeker maintain the meditative fire? Is it just by thinking? Yes, it is required. But begins by eating less food, talking less, getting involved in the world less. So what is happening? All the energy is being conserved, isn't it? So that energy will feed the fire to contemplate on the truth in this manner. And therefore, the seekers worship the Supreme through meditation upon the significances of Om, and the householders worship the same reality that is present in the core of one's own manifestation, the fire. In this way, both, just like a householder needs a prop, needs a support, needs the means to remember the Lord. And we understand what means. So the fire was the means. Similarly, a meditator cannot think about abstract, reality. Nothing will, mind will not get single pointed. That is why mind keeps wavering. Reality, the God. Reality, why the world is not reality? This is the reason why we have not pinned it somewhere. It needs to become single pointed. It keeps running away everywhere. No doubt everything is reality. But by a seeker who is still individual, expressing through individual mind, he cannot perceive that individual mind does not have the capacity to perceive the unity behind the variety. And that ability, that transformation comes about only by a mind becoming single pointed. And for that, you can't just keep thinking about reality. It may happen, I don't know. But here the scripture is saying, chant Om, and some sort of help to represent that reality is given in every religion, isn't it? In Islam it is Allah, chant Allahu, Allahu, Allahu. In Christianity it could be Jesus, or it could be Amen, it could be Hallelujah, whatever. When you start thinking about that word which represents the reality, then the mind, to the exclusion of everything else, then the mind becomes single pointed. And in that, understand, single pointed mind is an expanded mind. Multi-pointed mind is a frozen mind. So this is very, very important point to remember. And so both being the means, Om is the means for the seekers and Brahmanas, and the fire is the means for the other type. If both these props are removed, if both these means are removed, if the fire is removed and Om is removed, what is left behind? It is the same reality, because they are both expression of the same reality. If the father is removed and the son is removed, what is left behind the man? Same way. This is verily that you had asked for. Yadaschodeti suryo astam yatra cha gacchati tam deva sarve arpitaha tadunatyeti kaschana etadvaitata. And that from which the sun rises and into which it merges, on that all the devatas depend and no one goes beyond. This is indeed that. And that from which the sun rises and into which it merges. On that all the devatas depend, and no one goes, devatas, the demigods, and this is that indeed. So here it is told that gods are the presiding deities, as I told you before, for all the various aspects of creation. And all the various aspects of creation can be brought down to 5. And they are these 5 sense organs. Whatever these 5 sense organs take in, those are the aspects of creation. And so instead of having God for a presiding deity for every aspect of the creation, we can, and they have also. That's why we have 33,000 gods in our Sanatan Dharma. So there is no end to it. You can keep having you can have a tree god, you have got a dog god, you have got a cat dog, you have got a fire god, you have got you have got a cloud god, the rain god. For everything you can have a presiding deity. And some cultures may have it also. But in the Vedic times, everything was brought down to these 5. So the presiding deity for the space, presiding deity for the air, presiding deity for fire, presiding deity for water, and presiding deity for earth. And apart from these, the presiding deity for the sun and the moon. And in this manner. And when you talk about space, space is not God. Space has directions. So we have 8 directions, and there are 8 Dig Devatas. So directional deities. Because space, otherwise you don't know how big it is.
I was just thinking, Swami Chimananda explained very well the Devas, because I haven't quite grasped exactly.
What is that?
You're talking about the Devas, the presiding day, and he said it represents the productive potential of that particular.
Yeah, he has said that also, because until and unless you don't invoke the strength in the arm, will it become strong? If you don't invoke the strength in your mind, will the mind become strong? So that's the productive potential. So the potential is there, but you have to invoke it.
And Western people we can misunderstand all these gods.
No, even this manner, the way the Upanishad is explaining, it is not confusing.
No.
It is not confusing. But yes, productive potential, and that productive potential, the Upanishad is asking you to invoke, so that you don't see yourself as an individual, but as the total at least, if not the infinite. So that's the productive potential. So there is a God for presiding deity for the mind also. Indra, yeah. No. So these, all these so what is that out of which all these deities, these presiding deities, as she says, or Chinmayanji says, productive potential, what is the source of all these deities? Can they express by themselves? No. So for me, if this was the universe, if micro and macro at the same place, if this is the macrocosm called body, then who are the various gods? The one behind the eyes, the one behind the ears, the one behind the tongue, the one behind the various functionings of the body, isn't it? And if that potential is becoming weak, the disease begins. That aspect of creation starts breaking down. So we have to invoke that. But instead of, as I told you before, if each one of these deities starts thinking, the eyes think, oh, I'm going to do my own seeing, I'm not worried about what the mind wants. Can it? It has no choice. It has to work for the mind. It has got no independence. None of the organs here can express independently. And we saw in Kenopanishad, all of them tried to blow that grass down. And in the end, he said, Acha. And they came to realize that they don't have an independent existence. There is one higher reality which is controlling them, which is because of which they are. So here, same idea is being presented, that all these deities are coming out of that one reality, out of that one Brahman, out of that one out of which sun rises. When they say sun rises, means all the deities appear out of that and they merge into that, and all the deities depend and no one goes beyond. Meaning all these demigods, what was the word? Productive potentials. The productive potentials who are in charge. Can sun control the wind? No. Can wind control the fire? No. Can the fire control the water? No. Isn't it? Each one is having its own expression. There is no control over each other. Each one is, but in harmony with each other, they are called a creation. Isn't it? That's when a body comes about. That's when a planet comes about. That's when a universe comes about. But each one is not allowed to, even though looking independent, they are not independent. So from where did they come about? So from where all these planets came about? If you remove the sun, can the planet survive? They will collapse. And the science tells us that all these planets came out of the sun only. When the blast was there, all these came away and each one started rotating in its own orbit, and eventually the solar system was formed. Excuse me. And that's exactly how it is. If you remove, we cannot remove, because of the conscious principle within, all these deities, all these forces, all these presiding deities are functioning, and they have just used the word sun and the devatas. And this way the mantra says that the 5 great elements depend entirely upon the supreme reality, the supreme self, the infinite existence, and the gods depend upon, either you say the 5 great elements or you say the gods of these who are ruling these 5 elements. They depend upon the supreme reality, and that supreme reality is verily that. Understand this, O Nachiketa. Yadeveha tadamutra tadanviha mrityoh sa mrityum apnoti ya ihananeva pashyati. What is indeed here visible as the world, the same is there invisible as Brahman. And what is there is the same here. He proceeds from death to death, who beholds here difference between Brahman and the world. Now here, your idea, your confusion and doubt is being removed. Is this world a reality or not? Yes, it is. But you have to look at it in this manner. Just like all different waves of the ocean are nothing but water, similarly all expressions of the creation are nothing but the reality. From water's point of view, there is no wave and there is no ocean. From reality's point of view, there is no God expressing through total mind, and there is no individual expressing through individual mind. There is nothing like that from reality point of view. So for reality, is there something called world then? If world is a concept of mind, and without mind you cannot have the world, then the law, the infinite reality, the conscious principle, it is independent of the mind. Mind cannot reach it. If you say no, the reality must have a mind, then you cannot say that reality is one without a second. See? So take the position of that infinite. Just imagine. That is also very difficult. So when that infinite reality, pure consciousness, expresses as if through the total mind, it is called God. When it is expressing through the individual mind, it is called individual. And both these two things are happening at the same time. It is not God is separate to individual. When water is expressing through ocean, it is called ocean God, and it is expressing through wave, it is called wave God, wave individual. But in the wave is in the ocean, and ocean is in the water. Water is pervading all in and through. So on the water, ocean is imagined, and on the ocean, the wave is imagined. In other words, ocean and the wave are both imagined on waters. Exactly the same way, everything is reality, and on that reality, the God idea and the individual total mind and the individual mind are imagined. And why we say that they are imagined? Because that's how you feel right now. This discourse is not for the reality. This discourse is for the person who feels he is bound, who feels he is in this creation, who feels there is a creation, who feels there is a God. So to such a person these words are being told. Reality does not need all these words. So here it is being told that how can world express on its own without the presence of truth? Can it? Without the reality, can the world express itself? No. Reality is the substratum, is the foundation. See? So if there is no truth, there is no world. And if there is truth, world may be there, may not be there, it does not matter. So right now you see the world, when you come to the truth, there will be no world. There will be only you. There will be only the truth. Can't even say you. There will be only the truth. So if the wave realizes that it is ocean, it has made the spiritual journey to total mind. And if it doesn't get stuck at the ocean, it realizes there are many oceans, man. But what am I essentially? And it puts its attention on the waters. At that very moment, from water's point of view, there is nothing called ocean and nothing called waves.
Can I put it another way? Can I sort of,
Yeah.
where it says there's two states of being, the absolute and the manifested, the wave and the water, but if the first instance of creation was a vibration, for instance, say what, and it started to form into a different form, and like the little trees coming out of the egg sort of thing, but it's the same vibration, but it's just taken on form.
Vibration in reality is an imagination. Vibration in reality is an imagination. It will mean that reality is not complete and something came and created that vibration in it, isn't it?
No, being created it.
Huh?
It's part of being, it's the same being, but it's...
Being is complete. You can say it that way if it satisfies you. And that vibration, the first vibration is the total mind, and subsequent vibrations are the individual mind. You can say it that way. Okay? But don't imagine that actually it happened. It didn't happen. Nothing like this happened. There is no vibration, nothing. Only as an individual who is feeling that that I am a seeker and I want to know the truth, he is coming up with these ideas to explain to his own mind some possible journey to get back and to understand the whole process.
And the way of creation is the same thing, isn't it?
Exactly. So we are just trying to explain that, but there is no don't put any reality on it. That's the point that we are making. And therefore, and so here, the one who has known the self after in his meditation or in his sadhana and comes to realize that witnessing consciousness within himself, which supports everything, the sun, the deities, the world, the five elements, the total and the individual. Once he has come to realize that, at that very moment, here Swamiji is saying, his vision changes, and thereafter even the most heinous crime is to that God-man only a manifestation of that all-pervading self. He neither condemns nor extols any action. To him all actions are false, but at once they are to him solid reminders of the eternal truth. Meaning, wherever he is going, we talked about it in the previous class, that wherever he goes, whatever he sees, whatever he interacts with, everything is reminding him of that eternal reality that he essentially is. And in this way he moves around in the world, and that is the transformation in his vision, if we may say, that a seeker goes through. So, understood? If not, get there and find out and explain it back to me. It's nothing difficult. It's just a vision that is being presented. If you tell a child what you as a father are going through, will he ever understand? Will you? If you told your daughter what you are going through as a mother, so she should behave herself, will she understand? No. But when she becomes a mother, then she will understand what challenges her mother was going through, isn't it? So, as an individual, can we understand what our father is going through? He must be in pain because of our misunderstandings. He's saying, come on, wake up, arise, awake. But once you get to the total mind, will there be any doubts left? No, then you will empathize with another total mind. Yeah.
Because the strange thing about it is that the words can never take us there, but they're all we have really to clear the way to the mind needs something.
So what we are doing, yes, words can only, what we are trying to do is clear the cobwebs, become inspired. And having understood all this, and few bits may be left behind, but we know that reality is the ultimate. That's why you are coming, that's why I am speaking. But if this is not coupled with practice, this is not coupled with meditation, if this is not coupled with daily, as many times or as many moments you can find where you are intensely, with faith, with clarity, thinking about the cave of your heart from where the reality is expressing. And how can you catch reality? By chanting Om. Replace everything with Om and find out from where it is rising and from where it is merging back. You will catch that place. Until this exercise is not done. This is the complementary exercise. As the mind keeps melting away and expanding, automatically more inspiration will come. We know words cannot take us there. That's why we are replacing the words with Om. But then, if I sit here and say Om, 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 people do it. There are some courses where you only chant Om throughout the day. Class after class after class. Om sadhana. What's the point of using words? Just chant Om. See? Smart. This is for the intellectual people who have an itch in their mind, in their intellect, that I want to know, I want to know, I want to know, I want to know. So here, word after word after word after word. Get sufficiently overloaded in your intellect. Say enough. Is there any simple way? Yes. Oh, but you told us that the first Upanishad. Still you didn't follow it up. With this information,
we had one session where we did have
yes, meditation and contemplation on.
Yes.
When we study the Upanishads, we are able to appreciate the everything.
It was a very good meditation after that. That was a very long class that time.
I can't remember.
But nobody felt the time. Nobody noticed the time because it was so powerful.
And this way, a person who eventually attains the self, for him there is no pains, there is no fear, there is only joy and bliss, which is continuously thrilling the person as his own essential nature. For such a person, it is said that yadeveha tadamutra yadamutra tadanviha, meaning whatever is here, that is there. Whatever is there, the same is here. Meaning, that reality up there is the reality here, that reality here is the same reality there. There is no difference. It's like I am telling this statement to the consciousness in my heart. Hey, the consciousness, that means that which is here in my mind or in me, that is alone expressing in you. And what is expressing in you is the same expressing in me. He says, really? But I can't understand. So that which is there is here, that which is here is there. Meaning, only reality can be everywhere. Nothing else. And that reality, don't misappropriate that reality to be the names and forms. That reality is the divine spark. It is the conscious spark. It is the life principle. Don't replace it with matter. We make that mistake that reality means when we say this is all reality, this is matter. This is not reality. Matter is a product of mind. Mind also is matter. And therefore it doesn't matter, one Mahatma has said. But that's the only tool we have. Now that topic will come afterwards. That mind is the only tool. So what to do? We have to live with it only. And intelligent, make it intelligent. Yeah, I used to, when I was, before going to the ashram, I used to meditate on one point. I don't know where it caught me, and for a few months it was with me. And that was, what is that which is everything and nothing at the same time? And I used to sit with this, hours together. Every day. What is that? And it is not, what is that? I am everything and nothing. But how can I experience it? And I will say, everything. Everything means the entire creation, the entire universe, the entire cosmos. Oh, and the picture will come in my mind. And then I had the biggest problem to understand initial stages of my sadhana. What is subjective and what is objective? I could not get the hang of it. very difficult for objective. I understood that you are objective. This is an object, this is an object, this is an object, and objective knowledge means like knowledge of all the objects. Subjective knowledge means what?
What you experience.
Well, I know you understand.
Subjective
Knowledge is not the experience, I am sorry.
Subjective knowledge must be knowledge of yourself, because anything else is
Ah,
that.
but that I did not understand. I did not understand what is the subject.
Oh, no, I don't know either.
I could not understand what is the subject. And one day it clicked while thinking. And everything became clear. That what the subject is. For an individual, the subject is the ego. Isn't it? And for a seeker, the subject is the divine. And we think that subject divine is something other than the ego. That doubt is removed by the scriptures. That doubt is removed by the masters by sharing their experiences. And this way, if you are not able to understand it, then don't worry. Come for the next Upanishad. After all, Chinmayananji says, after all, why should one try to gain this supreme vision of oneness? Of what benefit is it for the mortal? And if such questions arise in your mind again and again, that what is the reason? I will not go into all this. Then your mind is unprepared, it is better you stop studying. I shouldn't say. Don't stop studying, continue studying, but prepare the mind. And what is the preparation? Make it single pointed. Automatically everything will start falling in place. I have said it so many times in the classes, isn't it? That before I used to study a lot, before coming to a class, and many things were all different. Now everything is just clicking together. Everything. I don't even have to try. Everything is just falling into the right groove, as up by itself. So in this way, so continue to move forward. Yes, today we are ignorant, but become knowledgeable the next day or the next moment. The next day after becoming a bit of an understanding, yes, I understand. Then third day don't come, I don't know what you said. No, you have to have confidence in your own understanding and keep moving forward. And that moving forward is not going to happen by itself unless you don't make an effort. Yes, the Lord will help, but till pratyahar you have to reach yourself. But if the God is everywhere, yeah, He is waiting when you will give up your efforts. I give up now. That is not enough. If you want to give up now, then give it up entirely and only think about Him. Then He will take care. He is taking care anyway. But if in your mind you have the doubts, then what can He do? Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om.